So in one of my recent front-end interviews, I was given this data and the interviewer asked me to render it just like this. So basically that data has to be converted into these nodes that can be dragged and dropped wherever we want onto the screen. And notice, when I take one of the nodes and put it on top of the other, it won't work. It will just reset it to its original position. And this might look easy, but there's a lot of thing that goes on behind the scenes to build something like this. And if we go on to add a new note and add a note, let's say buy groceries and press on add note, you can see a new note has been created right over here. So this addition of the notes was more of an additional feature that we can add, but the main requirement was this right over here, that we have to add these notes and these should be draggable and droppable anywhere on the screen. Also, one more thing, if I rearrange these notes, and you can see if whenever I refresh the page, these notes are persistent on their position. So we have to store their position in the local storage as well. But when these nodes are rendered for the very first time, they will have the random position. So I've opened VS Code over here and let's quickly initialize a new React app. So I'm going to say npm create wheat at latest. Now this will ask us the name of the project. Now I've already created a folder called drag and drop nodes over here. So I'm just going to press dot so that it just goes inside of that folder. I'm going to select a framework React and I'm going to select JavaScript. And there we go, our new React app has been initialized right over here. Now let's go on and install the dependencies. So I'm going to say npm install, and inside the src, let's get rid of the things that we're not going to need, like this assets folder and this inside the index.css, get rid of everything. And inside of app.css, I'm going to remove everything and just write body to be font family sans serif. And now inside app.jsx, I'm going to get rid of everything and have a div over here with the message subscribe to Roadside Coder, which you should if you haven't yet. And let's remove this state and all of these imports. Great. And you can see our dependencies have been installed. So let's just quickly try to run it. I'm going to say npm run dev. There we go, subscribe to Roadside Coder. All right, so as I showed you earlier, the interviewer gave us a JSON data, right? So which looks something like this, const, let's call it notes, and this. So this basically has an ID and a text that will be displayed inside of the notes. Now what I'll quickly do, instead of this, I'll create a notes component. And so basically inside this notes component, I'm going to send this as a param. Or you know what, I think we can manage our state right over here. So I'm going to take a use state and I'm going to call it notes. The initial value will be this data right over here, just like this. And I'm going to send this notes and set notes as param so that we can manipulate it from outside. Let's make the n capital. Okay, just like this. Okay, now obviously this notes doesn't exist yet. So let's just quickly go over here inside the src and create a new folder for our components. And inside this components, I'm going to create a new file called notes.jsx. Let's say rafce, and I'm going to initialize a new boilerplate code for these notes. And this rafce, you can install this extension over here called ES7 React Redux React Native snippets, and you can also get these snippets over here. All right, let's import this notes over here just like this, and that's pretty much it for the app.jsx. Let's go inside this notes.jsx and take our params over here, notes, which will be an empty array by default, and set notes, which is going to be a function for setting our notes. Now, whenever our notes will be rendered for the very first time, we don't know where to render them on the screen, right? So we're going to be rendering them at a random location. Of course, that location should be inside of our viewport, that is inside of our screen, right? So first thing first, what I'll do, I'll just quickly go and render our notes. So I'll say notes.map return, and let's just create a separate component for our note. So this note will take one single note, and let's give this the key of note.id, and this will take a content, that is what will be rendered inside this note. So let's just say note.text. Okay, let's just go and create this note component. So right here, I'm going to create another component called note.jsx, rafce note. Now this note component simply over here will take the content and whatever props that we're going to send it. So let's just take this content for now and render it over here, and I'm gonna import that note inside the notes. So let's see, we don't see anything right now. It's because the use state is not defined over here. Okay, let's just define that, and yeah, you can see, we can see both of the nodes have been rendered over here. Let's just quickly go on and give them some basic styles. So inside the div, so first of all, let's just give style. Inside of it, since we're supposed to render them anywhere on the screen, so obviously this will require a position of absolute, and we'll also give it some left and top styles. So let's just say left will be right now 0, and same with the top as well. I'm gonna give it some border, 1 pixel solid black. Whenever we select and drag these nodes, the text inside of it shouldn't get selected, right? So I'm gonna say user select to none. So now you see I'm pressing on them and dragging my mouse and nothing's happening. They're not getting selected. Then I'm gonna simply give it some padding of 10 pixels, some width of 200 pixels, and cursor is going to be move, so that we can, display that these are the things that can be moved. So if you hover on it, you can see the move cursor is being displayed. These small things play a very important role in our interviews, because these add to the app as an accessibility and help people decide how to navigate through your app. And let's just give some background color of light yellow, so that it looks somewhat like a note. And obviously right now they're on top of each other, so we'll fix that later on by giving this left and top dynamically. And whatever the props that we're going to send, I'm gonna take them right over here. So props, I'm gonna spread them over here. We're gonna send a few things, I'm gonna show you later on. And over here I'm just gonna press on window. If you're on Windows, you can press Windows plus semicolon and you will get the emojis. So let's just say emoji of a pen. On Mac you can select option key. So great, our UI has taken the shape. Coming back to my notes component, whenever these are rendered for the very first time, we're gonna be randomly rendering them on somewhere on the screen, right? But before implementing this, I'd like to tell you that machine coding questions are very important for our front-end interviews, and it's 101% expected to have at least one machine coding question during the front-end interview process. And that is why I've created an in-depth front-end interview preparation course, which covers dozens of such machine coding questions, along with JavaScript interview questions, React.js interview questions, and even performance optimization interview questions for you senior developers out there. And not just this, along with this course, you get an active Discord community where you can ask your doubts whenever you get stuck, and we will be there to help you. So click the link in the description down below, because right now we're having the biggest sale of the year for a very limited time. So don't forget to check it out. Or you can also scan this QR code on your screen to go directly to the course page. So I'll say use effect. Let's import use effect. And over here, I'm gonna first take const saved notes. If some notes are saved on the local storage, so let's just write local storage logic. I'm going to come back to this, but let's say we don't have the saved notes. So what I'll do, I'll say const updated notes, and I'll traverse through my notes over here. So notes dot map, whatever notes that we were getting over here, I'll take one single note, and over here I'm going to say const saved note, and inside of it, right now I'm going to keep it as null, but later on I'm going to add the logic inside of it over here, that every single note we're going to compare with the local storage, so that whenever our notes are updated, let's say whenever a new note is added, we are going to compare all of them one by one with the saved notes, just to see if anything has changed, if their position has changed or something else. So right now I'll say if saved note is there, then do something over here, return something, right? But we're not concerned with this right now, ignore it for now. Else over here, if we are rendering it for the very first time, what are we going to do? We'll say const position. We're gonna determine its position. So position equals, and we will say determine new position. And what this will basically do, it will just generate a random position for that note on our screen. So I'll just create that function over here, determine new position, and I'll say return whatever that note was. So note, this will be inside of curly brace, comma, the position. And let's just write the logic for this determining the new position. So first of all, we have to know how far we can go in this screen, right? So I'll say const max x equals window dot inner width, and let's say our note was around 200 something, so I'll just say 250. Max x will be this one. We're reducing this so that we can reduce the width of the note. And same for max y, window dot inner height, and if you don't know, x is the horizontal and y is the vertical. So simply in the end I'm going to say return, and I'm going to generate a random number between 0 and this max x. So simply over here for x I'll say math dot floor, and inside of this I'll say math dot random. And so basically what math dot random does, it returns a number between 0 and 1, that it could be 0.5, 0.6, something like that. And when you multiply this by max x, let's say, it will generate a number between 0 and max x. So same for y over here, max y. Great. So this will determine the new position. And now in the end, I'll say set nodes to the updated nodes. And over here in the dependencies, I'm going to say nodes dot length. So whenever the nodes change or whenever a new node is added, we can call this over here. Okay, so now we have this position inside of our nodes array. So what I'll simply do, I'll go over here and say initial position, and I'll give the initial position as node dot position, and then go inside of over here, simply take that initial position, and instead of this left and top, what I'll say, I'll take a backtick and I'll say initial position dot x and pixels. Let's just add the conditional rendering over here, and same for our y as well. So I'll just paste it right here and just add y. So this will give us the position in x and y format. So if I go back and see, yep, you can see whenever I'm refreshing the page, this is rendering these nodes in random positions. Great, let's just quickly go on and add the logic for the local storage, storing these on the local storage so that they can be persistent. So over here, what I'll say, I'll just say local storage dot set item. Whenever this has happened, I'm gonna set the updated nodes to our local storage. So I'll say nodes as the key inside local storage, and I'll supply JSON dot string if I am going to convert it into the string, and say updated nodes. And simply over here in the save nodes, I'm going to fetch it. So I'm going to say JSON dot parse, and I'm going to parse whatever is inside of this nodes local storage back to its original format, that is an array. So cool, let's just take this save nodes, and over here I'm going to compare to every single node right now that we have. So save node equals save nodes dot find. I'm going to find that particular node, n dot id, if it's equals to node dot id. So that is the current node. If that is the case, that means this is inside of our saved nodes, and simply I can just return it inside of it by saying node comma and the position of that particular node. So position saved node dot position. Great. Let's go back and see. So if I refresh the page now, you're gonna see these are not getting moved to random positions again and again. This will get stuck in one single position. Great. Now for the most important part, let's go on and add the logic for dragging these nodes and placing them wherever we want inside of the screen. So right below this use effect, I'll create a ref. Let's say notes ref or note refs. So basically this will be a reference for each and every node that we have over here. So I'll just keep it as an empty array by default, because inside of this we're going to store the ref to every single node that we have. So it's imported. Cool. And what I'll do, I'll just take this note refs, and here in this note component, I'll say ref equals, now notice what I'm going to do over here. A lot of you might not be aware of this thing. So I'll say note refs dot current. So I'll check if the note refs has this current note. So note dot id. If the note exists inside of this current ref. If that's the case, then it's fine. I'm just gonna take this. Else, if that is not the case, I'll simply create a ref over here. So I'll say note refs dot current node dot id. Let's just keep it inside of brackets equals create ref. Now this basically will create a brand new reference right over here if it doesn't exist. If it exists, then it's going to take it from over here. Cool. So now we have the reference to all of our nodes. You can just, console log this node ref over here and see. So what I'll do, I'll create a function over here on mouse down. And this on mouse down, what it will do, it will call a function called handle drag start. So that means we have started dragging our nodes. So this will essentially take the ID of the current node, so node.id, and the event. So event will come from here. And basically on mouse down will be triggered whenever we click on that particular node, whenever we have clicked on that node from our mouse. So this function obviously doesn't exist. So let's just create it over here, const handle drag start. And this is the most important part of this video. So notice carefully. I'll say const, I'll first of all take that particular ref, right? So I have the ID and the event over here, okay? So I'll say const notes refs, or I'll say note ref because we're taking one single note, right? And I'll say note refs. Out of this array, I'll take this ID dot current. So now we have the access to that particular node that we're dragging. Then what we will do, we will take the dimension of that node. And this function right over here, so let me show you, rect, because it's going to be rectangle, so I'll say rect, and I'll say note ref dot get bounding client. So basically this function over here is very important and you should be aware of this, what it does. So let me show you. If I just console log this rect, go inside the console, this will give us the dimension of the box. So if I click on it and note refs of ID is undefined, let's see. Oh, sorry, it will be note refs dot current ID. And one more thing that we have to do over here, since we are passing the refs from over here, from the parent component, go inside this note and you have to wrap this whole function inside of something called forward ref. And now this will take the props, and the second parameter it will take is the ref. So ref, we can just assign it over here. So ref equals ref. And this is something that you will very rarely find in other videos, the topics that we discuss over here on this channel. So make sure to hit that like button right now. So I guess now this should work. Let's go back, and if I click on it, oh, I guess I made a spelling mistake. This should be rect, not react. Again, you can see we get the complete dimensions and the location of that particular element on the screen. So you can see X, Y, top, width, height, everything. And what we are concerned about over here is the offset X and offset Y. And how will we calculate that? So I'll say const offset X equals E dot client X minus rectangle, what we've got over here. So rect dot left. So if I just copy both of these and I'll say console log and see, if I drag it, you're gonna see we get 273 and 81. And when we reduce both of these, that is 273 minus 81, we will get the offset of X, that is how far it is from the start of our screen. Similarly, we will do this for Y as well, that is offset Y. And now simply we have got our start position. So I'll say const start position. I will store this position inside of a variable so that we can reset it if we find that this is overlapping some other node. And you know what, we'll have to find that node inside the nodes array. So instead of that, instead of taking the ID, I'll just take the note over here from right here. I'll just say note instead of note.id, and I'll take out const ID from that particular note. And let's just store this note over here. Okay, so we have the start position as well. Okay, so now what we will do, we will create a function over here called handle mouse up. And this handle mouse up function will check whenever we leave our node, whenever we are dragging our node, and when we leave that particular node, it has to stay in that particular position. And we will have another function over here called handle mouse move, which will determine the position of the node when we are dragging that node, right? So for adding these events over here, I'll just simply say document dot add event listener, and first event that I'll add is the mouse move. Whenever we move the mouse, I'm gonna call this handle mouse move over here, and the other one will be mouse up. Whenever we leave it, I'm gonna say handle mouse up. Now first thing that I'll do so that I don't forget that is that let's just remove these event listeners whenever we leave the mouse, right? Just to clean up. So remove event listener, same with over here as well. Okay, now let's focus on first logic of this handle mouse move. Whenever we are moving our mouse, what we will do, I'll say const new position of x will be e dot client x minus whatever is this offset x. So that means the current client x axis position and this offset that we had calculated, that is this. Same for new y as well, offset y. Okay, now that we have both of these, what I'll do, I'll just say note ref, that is this, note ref dot style dot left. I'll just manipulate the CSS right over here, left equals new x and pixels, these many pixels. Same for new y as well, and this will be for the top. Okay, now for our handle mouse up, what will we do? I'll say const final rect equals note ref, and I'll calculate that get bounding client rectangle or rect, and I'll take the new position, and new position will simply be the final rectangle dot left and final rectangle dot top. Cool, then we have the new position, so let's just update them. But first of all, we will check for the overlap, right? So over here in the if condition, I'll just check for overlap. I'm gonna come back to this in just a minute. For now, I'll just keep it as false. Let's just say it's not overlapping for now. I'll say else update note position. I'll call this function, obviously it doesn't exist, and I'll provide it with the ID and the new position. Cool, let's just create this update note position over here. Outside of this, const update note position. This will take the ID and the new position. And here I'll say const updated notes equals, I'll traverse the notes dot map, will take one single note, and I'll say note dot ID. If it's equals to the ID that we're sending, then just simply update it. So I'll just say note comma the new position. So I'll say position colon new position. Else I'll simply take the note. We're not going to do anything with that. Cool, let's just take that and update it over here. So I'll just take it, this thing, just copy this thing and paste it over here, and this will update the note and update our local storage as well. So cool, then let's go back and see. Okay, this doesn't seem to work. Let's see, what did we miss? Oh, my bad, I didn't pass the event over here. So now if we see, yes, you can see we're able to move our nodes, and when we refresh this, they're exactly at the same position, but when we put them one below each other or on top of each other, you can see they're not resetting to their original position. So let's just write the logic for that now. So I'll just create a function over here, const check for overlap, and here I'll just take the ID of that node and check. So first of all, I'll say const current node ref. I'll take out the current ref. So same thing that we did over here, this thing, I'll just copy this and paste it over here, and this as well, the current rectangle that we are on. So just call it current node ref, and I'll try to go through each and every node that is currently on our screen, and I'll check if even if it's overlapping on one single node, I'll just reset the position of this node that we're dragging. So I'll say return nodes dot sum. So sum returns us with a boolean value. I'll take one single node and I'll check if, first of all, I'll just check if it's the same node. So node dot id equals current, or just the ID that we have taken. If that's the case, then just return false. Now after that, we'll check with the other nodes. So const other node ref, and just copy this, and we will take this node dot id. So we have the ID of the other nodes now, or the other node now. You can say const other rect. Let's take the dimension of the other node. So I'll just do this other node ref dot get bounding client rect, and const overlap equals. So let's just write the conditions over here. So I'll say rect, or let's just call it current rect, and I'll just say current rect dot right is less than other rect dot left, or current rect dot left is more than other rect dot right, or current rect dot bottom is less than other rect dot top, or current rect dot top is more than other rect dot bottom. So basically what this right over here is doing is, let me just wrap them inside of this parenthesis and I'll say not. So basically what we're doing over here, we're checking if both of these refs are overlapping by comparing their positions of, right, left, up, down, and then in the end I'm going to say return overlap. Cool. Now we can just take this check for overlap and I'm going to say not check for overlap, or actually check for overlap, and I'll just give it the ID. And if it is overlapping, what I'll do, I'll just take this start position, if you remember, and I'll just reset it back to it. So let's just take this, paste it over here. Instead of new x and new y, I'll just say start position dot x and start position dot y. Let's just see. Let's go back. If I try to do this, okay, nothing happens. Why is that? Let's go back and see. Oh, it's because this has to be node dot position and not just node. Okay, let's see. If I try to do this, yep, you're gonna see this will not work out. If we go over here, yep, this will be fine, but not on top of it. Awesome. So we have successfully implemented this dragging and dropping of nodes right over here. Now I would highly recommend you to go and try out that addition of nodes by adding an input box over here and clicking on that button to add a node in the random position inside of this screen. And if you're not able to do it, just open Instagram and search roadside coder, and over here in this highlight I have uploaded a reel containing the solution for this use case. And yep, that is it for this video. If you want to practice more such machine coding questions, definitely click the link in description down below and check out my complete front-end interview preparation course. And as I mentioned, right now you can get it for flat 50% off.